artistic director and considered yourself a creative, how differently would you approach your work life? Now, before you begin to ponder that question a little bit too much, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself to help you understand how my experience speaks to this subject. I've been in the arts for more than 30 years. I spent the first 10 years traveling the world as a professional opera singer. 20 years ago, I decided that I was more passionate about administration than performing, and I crossed over to this beautiful world. I have served as an artistic and executive producer of opera and broadcast media. Most of my time has been spent in development and marketing. I was inspired to share this story with you today because of an experience I had very early on in my career in arts administration. Years ago, at a performing arts company in New York City, I was part of a development team that was preparing for an annual campaign when one of my colleagues said, quote, "We really should include some artists in this exercise. Everyone knows they're the creative ones," unquote. That comment struck a huge nerve within me. You see, I believe creativity is a powerful, powerful spirit all of us can access, and no one person or group has a monopoly on it. I absolutely disagreed with my colleague's assertion, but more importantly, what really worried me was his mindset. A belief in the false division between artistic and administrative when it comes to creativity. I believe this is one of the big systemic issues in arts administration across the world, and I'm here today to challenge you to think differently. Just think about it. Creativity is much bigger than a label. One may self-identify as artistic, or be described by the world as artistic, but this does not mean that they own the creative spirit. Creativity is for all of us. We all access the spirit of creativity way more often than we acknowledge, and way more often than we're taught to recognize. Just think about all the times you've had to describe something, or navigate a challenging situation. In doing so, you are accessing the spirit of creativity. So, if we know that we can all access this mindset, and it's in all of our minds, I ask you, when does the show really begin? Does it start at the 7:30 or 8 p.m. curtain? At the start of the weekend or weekday matinee? What if the show starts with you, in your mind, with your very first interaction with staff, donors, patrons, the community? And if you're willing to embrace this mindset, would you be more willing to think like an artistic director, a creative? If so, your next question might be, what does it mean to be an artistic director? Artistic directors come from a wide variety of backgrounds and are not easily stereotyped. However, what the very best of them have in common is a thirst to be as creative as possible in their effort to connect with their audiences. They seek to do work that is appealing, meaningful, and inspirational. Appealing, meaningful, and inspirational. So with this in mind, how might an administrative officer take on the artistic mindset? The artistic mindset knows that projects are iterative, that a successful outcome is a result of numerous revisions and workshops, and that process may take years. They gamify their work. They allow for a healthy sense of competition with themselves and their peers. They are flexible. They know to expect the unexpected, and that sometimes last-minute changes are just part of the deal. They lead with curiosity. They're always curious about what's happening in their sector and beyond. They know that inspiration can be drawn from an infinite variety of sources. So with this in mind, I would like to talk a little bit, share some examples of how you can transform your mindset with a good dose of creativity. Last year at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, we noticed that our donor engagement weekends, which included patron dinners, performances, artist interviews, and lectures had become dull and ineffective. They were doing nothing to further our brand and nothing to showcase our programs. So we decided to shake things up a little bit. We brainstormed, we held focus groups. We thought about how we could make this big change. And in the end, we decided to rebrand the effort. They're now known as Immersive Weekends. They're fully themed, they absolutely convey our mission, and they spotlight our programs. Here's an example of some of the work we did. Opening weekend became Celebrating Humanity. Premiere One weekend became Play on Shakespeare, which speaks to our commissioning project to commission 36 playwrights from across the world to translate Shakespeare's 36 known works. Premiere 3 weekend became Social Progress, which speaks to our work in equity, diversity, and inclusion. Last summer, we challenged our director of leadership and legacy giving to infuse our planned giving program with an entirely new level of creativity. We said to her, think like an artistic director, and we will absolutely support everything you want to do. Here's an example of some of the work she's been doing. It's an excerpt from a video designed to showcase our planned giving program and its value to our community.
Ah, Gaudy Gooden, my friends. You've arrived just in time. Follow me. I'm sure many of you recognize me, for that I am quite famous and quite handsome, and quite famous for being quite handsome. And while I am a man, a poet, a lover, a dreamer, a swordsman, did I say handsome? A diplomat, a businessman, I think I have derived the most satisfaction from being a patron to the arts. And being a patron to the arts sometimes means showing up with a bag of gold every now and then to make sure things run smoothly. And that's why I'm here. Join me. Yes, I am Henry Reesley, 3rd Earl of Southampton, or rather, his spirit. For our purposes, please call me Harry, or rather, the Earl. But don't call me late for the performance. A bit of humor. I do that sometimes. Ah, yes? No? Bit loud. I do love the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. It's one of the only places I can find decent clothes anymore. I'm usually fine if I stay with something from Danforth Coleman's or Derek Whedon. Although, occasionally I do use Amazon Prime. I'm here because there is a new urgency to continue an important legacy. A legacy to preserve this place where we nourish and cherish the best of our spirits. Perfect. Of course.
That came about because we said to her, you are now an artistic director. We want you to compete with those folks. And so here are some of the measurable outcomes. We greatly increased our buzz, both internally and externally. This work and related work help us to increase our budgeted contributed income by more than 13% in the last year. Also, the number of folks enrolled in our planned giving program has swelled by more than 35%. But most importantly, what I'm really proud of is we're growing a culture that is encouraging folks to lean into their creativity. In closing, I'd like to offer 5 things you can do to begin harnessing this mindset. 1, consciously engage your creative power. Hop on it and ride it like a wild horse. Okay. Allow your inner artist to develop a hunger, nourish it, grow it, and never, ever, ever let anyone or any institution diminish it. This can be as simple as building in more time on your schedule for reflective, proactive time. Open your office calendars and book an entire year of self-time and commit to absolutely keeping those meetings with yourself. 2, exercise your mind's eye. Borrow a favorite technique from our colleagues in the film industry to help yourself and others see your vision. Storyboard your ideas. Break your vision into scenes and put yourself in the action. If your project is a messaging campaign, imagine receiving the e-blast or looking at the social media. What are the responses making you feel like? Do you feel like sharing the work? If your project is an event, imagine walking into that space. Who are you seeing? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? Who's taking selfies? What's your immediate feedback to staff? Be there in the action. 3, demand and support imagination. Do the necessary deep dive work to boost your creativity levels. Borrow a favorite technique from our artistic directors and enlist the support of the equivalent of dramaturgs, designers, and research assistants. And if budget is an issue, know this: these kinds of projects are highly attractive to board members and volunteers. 4, start small, experiment, workshop, launch into your projects with enough time and space for modification. Aim for creating projects that are affordable, manageable, and replicable. Affordable, manageable, and replicable. And 5, and this is probably the most important for me, become a contextualizer. Become a contextualizer. Seek to make your work relevant to as many different people as possible. I'll give you an example. Recently, a friend of mine who runs a leading performing arts center in the United States reached out to me and she said, we just booked the musical Hamilton. We're going to make a ton of money. We don't need to worry about the creative stuff. And I replied, you've got to be kidding. This is an opportunity for you to explode with creativity. And while I was talking to her, my mind started exploding. And I said, imagine the possibilities. Let's go crazy. You can partner with the police department and have lectures about community security and law enforcement during the American Revolution. You can think about food and what people were eating during the American Revolution and partner with restaurants and food trucks. You can think about trash and refuse policy during the American Revolution and how it has evolved over the last few hundred years and do something hip and funky and cool with your sanitation department. You can partner with hospitals and health centers and athletic clubs and explore how health and wellness has transformed over the last 100 years. You can partner with book clubs and bookstores and libraries and talk about American literature during the American Revolution. The list goes on and on and on. Contextualizing offers so many opportunities for creativity. Just imagine what the arts could look like in the future. A future where there is greater awareness and appreciation of the omnipresence of the creativity. A future filled with our ownership of this mindset. Imagine the grand and impactful harvest we can create with this kind of service, with this kind of thinking. We could impact the world at the local level, the regional level, the national level, and the global level. I encourage you, I challenge you, embrace this mindset. Own creativity. Imagine and create. Thank you.